Over the last 30 years, buying your first home has gone from the cornerstone of the American dream to an empty promise, leaving Americans with a lifetime of rent payments. So in this video, we are going over the current state of the housing market and how it's killing the American dream, what would need to happen to make homeownership a realistic goal for young Americans, and what you can still do to afford a home in one of the worst housing markets we've ever seen. Almost 100 years ago, historian James Adams coined the term the American dream as a better and richer life for everyone. This idea is rooted in the belief that anyone in this country can achieve personal success regardless of income, religion, or ethnicity. However, this concept was modified in the 1990s by mortgage company Fannie Mae. In an attempt to sell more home loans, Fannie Mae ran a mass advertisement suggesting that buying a home was the cornerstone of the American dream. And it worked. From 1990 until 2008, home prices rose over 107%. In 1991, the median age of a first-time homebuyer was just 28 years old. Today, it has climbed all the way to 40 years old. And the most recent study by the National Association of Realtors discovered that out of all of the homes being purchased, only 21% of them were purchased by first-time homebuyers, which is the lowest percentage ever recorded. So in order to measure how affordable housing really is, economists use a ratio of median home price to median household income. This ratio helps show how many years of income it takes to buy the average home in America, and the bigger that gap is, the harder it becomes to afford a home. Dating back to 1985, the median household income was $23,620 and the median home price was $82,800. This means that the average home could be paid off with 3.5 years of the average household's wages. Now, taking a look at the 2025 data, the median household income was $83,730 and the median home price was $426,800. So the previous 3.5 years of wages it took to afford the average home skyrockets to 5.1 years of wages today. This means that homes have become about 46% more expensive relative to what the average household earns. But in 2022, I got my real estate license and sold a 2,000 square foot condominium in Los Angeles for $1.49 million. And I thought to myself, if a condo can sell for almost $1.5 million, it must be significantly harder to afford the average home in Los Angeles than America as a whole. So I researched how many years of income it would take to afford the average home in Los Angeles, and I was right. It would take 12.5 years worth of income for the average Los Angeles resident to pay off the average home here. And for context, an international housing affordability report indicates that housing is considered affordable if the median home price costs 3 or less times than the median household income. So back in 1985, housing was considered moderately unaffordable. Today, housing is considered severely unaffordable, and in many major cities like Los Angeles, homes are considered impossibly unaffordable. But homes didn't suddenly just become unaffordable because of Fannie Mae's advertising in the 90s. In reality, it's the result of several complex social and economic factors that have been building for decades. The main issue that I personally see is the change in how people view housing. Homes used to be a place to live for the rest of your life and raise your family in, but now they're treated as a type of investment. And there's proof of this all across this platform too. You'll see things like turning single-family homes into Airbnbs, investing in rental properties, tax strategies for rental properties, and everything else you could possibly learn about buying an investment property is being pushed out by YouTube all the time. Real estate investors accounted for a substantial 33% of single-family home purchases last year. Of those investors, 87% were considered small investors of about 1 to 5 homes owned, and 2% were large institutional investors with portfolios exceeding 1,000 homes. And Blackstone alone has ownership in more than 274,000 rental units in the US. But there is nothing inherently wrong with small investors buying rental properties. Renting is cheaper than buying, and many people need homes big enough to comfortably raise their families. So for those who can't afford the mortgage, property taxes, or maintenance costs that comes with owning a home, renting from a small investor is perfect. And from an investor's perspective, adding real estate to a mix of stocks, bonds, and other assets helps build a more balanced portfolio and protects financial stability if one investment drops in value. Even though more people than ever want to buy homes, the problem isn't just demand, it's that there's not enough supply to keep up with it. According to JP Morgan, there's an estimated housing shortage of about 2.8 million units in the US, and solving that could take around a decade. And this problem is worsening. Last year, new housing starts fell short by about 50,000 units compared to completions, meaning home building isn't just trailing demand, it's also producing fewer homes than it did the year before. So if there's a demand for more homes than what's on the market, then why don't developers just simply build more homes? Well, these days, building single-family homes isn't just harder, it's also a lot less profitable than it used to be. Just to comply with zoning laws, permits, and regulations, builders have to pay $94,000 on average before they even pour concrete. This isn't a quick and easy process either. 97% of developers experience delays, and 83% say permitting issues are the cause. So what will have to change to make housing more affordable? Basically the opposite of what's happening today. Large institutional investors would need to be restricted from buying single-family homes. The home building process would have to become cheaper and simpler to encourage mass construction, and zoning laws would need to be loosened to create more space for new housing. But waiting for the government to create legislation that actually makes homes cheaper is like waiting for the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. It's just never gonna happen. So what can you actually do to put yourself in a better position to afford a home in 2026? Well, you can't buy a home until you understand how much a home actually costs. Luckily, there's a simple and easy rule to follow called the 9.35% rule. The 9.35% rule shows that, on average, a home will cost you about 9.35% of its purchase price each year. 7% will go towards your mortgage payment, 1.1% towards property taxes, 1% towards repairs, and 0.25% towards every other miscellaneous expense. So if you want to buy a $1 million home, you would realistically have to pay $93,500 a year or $7,800 a month just to own and use it. And since experts recommend keeping housing costs below 28 to 30% of your pre-tax income, you'd need to earn about $26,000 per month or roughly $312,000 per year to comfortably afford that $1 million home. Making $312,000 per year is just not realistic for the average person. But affording a home through investing is much more attainable. The S&P 500 is an index that tracks 500 of the largest publicly traded companies in the United States, and it has historically outperformed home price increases. On average, the S&P 500 has returned about 10.2% per year, while real estate has returned closer to 3.8%. And the average mortgage payment costs 38% more per month compared to the average rent. That means if you choose to rent and invest the excess money you would have spent on home ownership, you could outpace home price growth by 6.4% every year. Even though the housing market is severely unaffordable right now, we will actually be able to increase our net worths quicker than homeowners by investing and renting. If you want to get better at personal finance and make affording your first home easier, make sure to smash that subscribe button. I also made a video on the 5 money milestones to hit in your 20s, so if you're a young adult like me, check it out and see if you're on track to buy your first home. Thank you, my friends and fellow renters, for watching, and I will see you next time.